Chelas of the will of God, I have chosen to speak to you this evening from Darjeeling, where the council is assembled in consideration of the many crisscrossings of human problems compounded by other human problems, exaggerated by those who have been known as the spoilers. We deliberate, and we indeed consecrate and multiply your energy for the staying of the hand of further chaos and terror upon earth. I can only report to you, against the backdrop of light which you have undauntedly released in recent weeks. For I would tell you that by comparison to what might have been, what has been, and what will be, is far less than that which could have been easily predicted by any ascended master from the mere reading of the handwriting upon the wall. Human karma reaches a high water mark, yet the bearers of the light are having, indeed, great results in staying that descending energy. It is important that you know the deliberations of the Darjeeling Council. It is important that you be apprised of your own effort against the backdrop of ours. Therefore I come to speak to you, and I draw you one and all into the chambers at Darjeeling, where during this meeting you will assemble with us by your free will. For I desire that your auras, so filled with light, so sincere, might be saturated with the consciousness of Mother Mary, Saint Germain, the great divine director, Dwal Kul, Kuthumi, and many others who are with me here in deep concern and consideration as to the course of human events and divine events in their midst. Insofar as divine events are concerned, we see indeed the birth of the man-child appearing. We see the hearts of our beloved Chelas intensifying in the light of the cosmic Christ. We are well pleased, and with this light of earnestness accelerating, we can do much. Chelas must also be realistic and understand that there are some things that we cannot do. And one is this: to interfere with the free will of the peoples of nations and the governments of nations. This is why you realize we have promoted such an astounding effort of mass education of key individuals upon the planet and many in general as to the realities of the brotherhood, of reincarnation, of karma, and of the cause itself. For in so doing, the soul is educated in the use of free will, and then we have some influence in the course of human events. Individuals in nations that are beset by war today have varying degrees of awareness of truth, of divine purpose, or even of their own contact with the Godhead. I show to you now the illustration before you in our chambers of the consciousness and the levels of consciousness of the leaders of the Middle East as well as the African nations. I show you in particular the heads of state of the Arab nations, members of OPEC, the nation of Israel, as well as the many and varied states on that continent of Africa. You will notice the divergent lines of origin, of evolution, in other planetary homes and other systems of worlds. You will see that the range of consciousness is the entire arc of that which is present upon the planetary body. You will realize as I show you examples of such problems as are now taking place there. As these have occurred on other planetary homes and systems of worlds, they have defied solution. You will notice that the wide spectrum of prior evolution as we have on Earth is seldom experienced, for most of the planetary homes reflect single evolutions rather than mixtures of many planetary bodies. There is a more uniform level of evolution, a greater measure of understanding. You wonder how those who meet at the World's Council tables disagree emphatically and do not see eye to eye on the issues of the time. You have spoken today of the condition of hunger and the unwillingness of those who control power and government to look to assuage hunger, to feed the people, to care for life itself, and have placed all other manner of goals before the central purpose taught by the Lord Christ. So the feeding of the little children, the care and the love of people, because people have the spark of the Godhead. To understand then what is behind what is taking place today, you must go back to the roots of Lemuria, for all other roots only reflect more recent millions of years upon the planetary body. When you go to Lemuria, you go to the cradle of life, you go to the beginnings of beginning. You go to the mother flame, and you see how life has progressed, first with the early root races, and then with the great rebellion of the archangel affecting vast systems of the galaxies. To trace all of these intricacies and to see how these are being outplayed in the Middle East and in Africa today, and then to understand what is that God's solution. I can assure you that we also pray, we also meditate, we also decree. And we are in touch with a great cosmic council who governs the flow of life to this planetary home. We are proceeding with all due deliberation with our program of enlightenment for the path of initiation. We must tell you, however, that there are many individuals upon this planetary body, millions in fact, who according to all testings and examinations of their existence over hundreds and thousands of years have steadfastly rejected whatever manifestation of the cosmic Christ was incarnate. They have rejected the path. They have rejected the Almighty One. We do not send you to these, but to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. However, the knowledge of the presence of these individuals, their destructivity, their anti-love demonstrations, can only tell you that with their continued manifestation in power in these nations, there is not a God solution until there be an alteration complete of the course of human events. For by cosmic law, we are not allowed to interfere with free will. The only interference that can come with the free will that is committed to death and to the death of millions is the judgment of the Lord God Almighty himself, when and only when that judgment is implemented by the sons and daughters of God in embodiment. Therefore, when the Lord Jesus Christ pronounces the judgment, it must be pronounced through those in embodiment. The word must go forth, and it must manifest in the plane where the judgment is required. Thus you see with the fall of Lucifer and the Satanists, their judgment was postponed for two reasons. One, the mercy of the law extending to them the opportunity to repent and to bend the knee. Two, waiting for the moment when those originally overcome by the fallen ones would reach the level of attainment, moving from the aspect of the child to the full heir of sonship, and therefore capable of calling forth the judgment, implementing the judgment by the spoken word, but not being overcome by the reactionary forces of the fallen ones. For you see, the ones who invoke the judgment will, in that physical plane where that judgment must be meted, they will be required to receive the lashback of the dragon's tail until all energy spent following the judgment results in the individual's dissolution into the white fire core of the central sun. I am telling you, beloved ones, that once the judgment call is given upon an individual life stream, if it is ordained by God and ordained by the Son of God in embodiment, yet that seed of the wicked has a certain prescribed number of cycles in which it is allowed to outspend the remaining energy lodged within its aura and physical form. Thus, between the hour of the judgment and the consummation of the judgment is a battle. And this is the nature of Armageddon. The forces of darkness in the battle of Armageddon are already judged by the Almighty, who awaits the attendant confirmation of the judgment by the embodied sons of God. Once it is spoken, the battle rages all the more, and unless sons and daughters of God in embodiment, truly chelas all the way, are able to stand fast and hold the balance, there may be in the shuffle the loss of certain little ones. We are concerned for these little ones in every nation, but our problem solving is complicated by the fact that many of these fallen ones know the law that I am speaking to you all too well. Therefore they know that the Son of God is about to pronounce the judgment, will pronounce the judgment, and therefore they take a head start on the battle of Armageddon. And therefore the raging begins like the horses that cannot be contained in their stalls before the shot is fired at the beginning of the race. These ones then attempt to preempt the coming of the sons of God. They mock the judgment affirmed and confirmed by these sons. They set up their own courts, and they then judge the children of the light and the sons and daughters of God before they in turn will be judged. They create their wars, and the holocausts of this century have already shown the outplaying of the forces of the fallen ones who have known that their time was short. Thus, until the judgment is given, we may not intercede, but before it is given, there is grave danger to the little ones. And after it is given, we must assist in its implementation. We must awaken, we must illumine, we must summon the ones who will hold the balance and understand that there is great treachery then in those periods following the invocation of the calls. I will tell you that there is not a single fallen one, a betrayer of the living Christ, or an offspring of the wicked upon the planet this day, who does not know at inner levels, in the very depths of his being, the presence of our messenger in embodiment and the presence of our chelas. They tremble before the word of the messenger, and therefore they seek to mock it and to destroy it before they themselves are consumed by the sacred fire that proceeds out of the mouth of the two witnesses. Therefore we take precautionary measures. One such measure was taken by Saint Germain in the founding of the United States itself as a haven for light bearers. And this haven for our light bearers is a secure stronghold whereby over the period of centuries the judgment might go forth. Thus it has become the force field, chiefly opposed by the fallen ones in every nation. And of course, they have always used economic measures to move against the children of light. These have been stepped up by manipulations in the Federal Reserve System, in the banking houses, and the putting of America off of the gold standard. I could have told you in the hour, in the moment of that event, of the ultimate decay and collapse of the monetary system. All nations have gone that way. Therefore, sons and daughters of liberty and children of the light will realize that the greatest act of patriotism that you could muster for the woman and her seed and for the abundant life is to campaign for the return to the gold standard. This has many complications, as you know, and many would suffer loss, and truly there would be a period of hardship. But I say hardship is better than death, and freedom is better than slavery. And today, America, you exist under the most horrendous slavery of all, economic slavery. You are the enslaved Israelites, and I am come in the mantle of Moses to deliver you if you will. But in this hour, let us speak then of the challenges and of our recourses and of our resources. It is not our desire to see one of these little ones perish. Our plans are made for every eventuality, for the survival unto the fulfillment of the mission of the true chelas of the flame. Of recent date, there have been a number of chelas who have professed loyalty to the messenger and to us, but when challenged, when chastened, when given the correct course of the will of God, they have rejected, denied it, and even deceived the messenger. This is the folly of the Israelites, not taking their sufficiency in the Guru. while professing allegiance and obedience, yet doing their pleasure and fulfilling their desires. These have come to the fore in the very midst of the dark cycle and in the moment of the increase of our demands upon our chelas. These demands have been set forth by the great divine director, and I welcome you to study his dissertation. It is magnificent, and at the conclusion of his delivery of that address at the ashram of the World Mother, the Darjeeling Council stood and applauded his magnificent life stream and his offer of chelaship to your own blessed selves. These standards then are raised because chelas are ready to meet them. If you will not stay awake, you must leave. I will not have you slumping and sleeping in my meeting, for I have somewhat to speak to you about this night, and it is a bit distracting to our force field to see that some will not be awake. Now I would speak to you of the situation of the beloved ones of light and your blessed service, for we must make every blow count for the Lord, the Ancient of Days. Inasmuch then as there are treacherous individuals upon the planet whose judgment has come or is about to descend, who are wreaking havoc in the nations of Africa, who are madly assembling the resources to perpetuate and extend their life. We must then devise a plan for the survival of not only the individual light bearer, but the community of light bearers. For without the community, there is not the ongoingness of the cause itself. Individual chelas may survive, and I dare say that among you are many staunch ones who would survive unto your ascension, even alone in a hostile environment, even in the concentration camps of the Soviet Union. But beloved, it is the cause that is greater than all of us, that includes all of us, that must survive. We see then this nation's leaders betraying the flame of freedom and the individual light bearer throughout the planet. We have seen the infamy of the President of the United States standing for guerrillas, standing for rebels who have no standing in the courts of the sacred fire. There are communists of evil intent in South Korea today who were imprisoned and whose freedom President Carter is demanding on the basis of human rights. When these individuals are freed, nation by nation, to do what they will, they organize to overthrow the governments of freedom, imperfect though they may be, and to install themselves for the final slaughter of the sheep. Thus we see that the safeguard of the individual child of God is thrown away for the guarantee of the rights of those who long ago rebelled against the authority of the incarnate hierarch. We have no doubt that the dispensations given, that your invocations will do much. We come then to reveal a portion of the plan that must work hand in hand with your effort, thus far so nobly begun, and certainly one that has increased immensely since the hour of the ascension of Godfrey Ray King, and of Lanello. We see the course of world communism and the corrupt ones abusing capitalism, checked and contained by the dynamic decrees. We see the course checked and contained by such an intensity of piercing illumination's flame as to even blind the chelas themselves. We see that nothing less than a revolution of absolute dedication to the mind of God, the yellow ray of wisdom, and that dedication in the literal plastering of the planet in the four quadrants of being with the living message of truth. We therefore are preparing with certain cosmic beings who have joined our council meeting to be with you on the final day of this conference for an individual initiation and transfer of a momentum of wisdom's flame to give you impetus to transfer the wisdom of Omega, the wisdom of Alpha. We have been in contact with a brotherhood at Luxor and Serapis Bay. We are determined then that our organization shall have, first and foremost, the most modern and the most efficient means of publishing the Word. We are demanding this dispensation from the Karmic Board and implemented by our keepers of the flame and earnest devotees of the Word. We will chain our messenger as a prisoner of the rock for the delivery of the work, and she will be the glad prisoner, the imprisoned lightning itself. This is no sacrifice. It is the opportunity that she has awaited for many centuries. May all of you also recognize that you too have awaited the opportunity to balance the karma of your own perpetuation of ignorance among the people. You have been shown by recording angels the records when you have not only not given wisdom, but perpetuated that ignorance of the truth to such an extent that you also have accelerated to be in a position in this age of undoing that ignorance of the law and transferring the lightning of yellow fire to quicken minds to the victory. It can be done. Of this we are convinced. But it will not be done by chelas who offer half a pie as you have been told. We will not allow our messenger to waste even an hour with individuals who are bent on their own path, apart from a group momentum, a community momentum that is the very essence of living love necessary to achieve this goal. Ideas may start revolutions, but people must finish them. We may begin our revolution with the teachings of the Ascended Masters, but unless there are those who will implement them, the revolution will not be brought to its glorious victory. Thus, to publish on the one hand is the necessary beginning. And as you have heard, my own beloved Hercules will stand with the world teachers who summon their representatives. You may, for one reason or another, not be in attendance at the 2-week session. But above all, let it not be for the reason that you are not worthy, you are not ready, or you are not smart enough to be an instrument of the world teachers. Scarcely anyone fulfills these requirements in the human consciousness, and therefore I tell you, for all of us, it is by grace that we hold our offices. Thus, do not stay away because you say, I do not have the requirements. The only requirement at this seminar is the will. The will to exceed yourself and all past efforts. The will to give yourself and to go forth, where we will send you on those exciting journeys of contacting souls throughout the earth. I have a special message from Saint Germain, who is seated beside me as I speak from our council chamber. He gives to you the message that NATO is not capable of defending Europe. Not physically, not by will, not by its spirit, not by its backing from the United States, which has no will to defend Europe. Therefore, he delivers to you the message that the only ones capable of defending Europe are the keepers of the flame. If you are astounded to hear such a message, then you have not yet understood the great equation of light. Or perhaps you have not heard the story of the little boy with his finger in the dike. Therefore, when you are prepared, Saint Germain, in the name of the great divine director who has sponsored Europe and its recalcitrant, prideful, and rebellious evolutions for thousands of years, will send you to those nations. And there, 2 by 2, you will keep the flame. Remember that when you decide what to do with your life. For Saint Germain's words, though short, are profound. NATO will not, cannot defend Europe. The only ones capable of defending Europe are the keepers of the flame. Now you may understand the high esteem in which you are held by the Knight Commander. Now you may begin to understand the value of a life lived in God, of daily decrees not missed and given with joy. I say, cease listening to those demons who would tell you they don't work. Why do you think the aggressive mental suggestion is so intense? For the very reason that they do work, and that without them, the planet Earth would have long ago ceased to be, and it would be all over, and you would find yourselves in varying octaves of consciousness, not necessarily all together in one place. For here you are equal, having equal opportunity to serve and to give a life, and to earn at the conclusion of that life the diamond in your turban. But beloved ones, the sudden removal of life streams from the screen of life reveals the great gaps between levels of attainment, and therefore the opportunity for community is lost, as individuals must gravitate toward their own evolution, their own level of light. Here and now, while the sun shines, all are treated with equal respect, equal accord, and we live in the love of Sanat Kumara, whose great love, like the love of the Buddha, compensates for those shortcomings that we are content to allow to have beneath the surface of the aura. For it is not necessary that all that is not fulfilled in you should be on the end of your nose or wiggling from your toes. At this moment, I would have you wiggle and awake and open your eyes, lest you find that it become a despising of the law and a rejection of the law, for which you will suffer karma this day. I am Morya. I am concerned for your life in this moment, and I will let you be concerned for your sleep. For many sleep, but the fallen ones sleep not. And I watch as they continue to plan and to plan. It is the psychology of the survival of the animal who has been cornered and is about to be seized, to suffer attack. There arises within the very being of these fallen ones maximum energy, which is literally drawn from the astral plane and its unlimited pools of darkness. An energy unlimited, like the energy of a man who is angry and possessed of 1,000 demons to implement his evil deed. This is the strength of the minds of the fallen ones as they plot to destroy. Thus, we look to the individual soul of light to increase illumination, to increase wisdom, and to increase awareness of the individual and the collective survival of our community. I will instruct our messenger to bring to your attention certain facts of the survival of Camelot on the morrow, so that you will be prepared with this knowledge, that we might come on the 4th of July to give to you the initiation which we are counting on to be the means of your implementation of the total plan of the great divine director. In view then of the mounting turmoil in Central America, the rallying of forces through Cuba and Panama, and nation by nation, it may well be seen that the rebels there indeed sense the footsteps and the shadow of the coming of the mother of Saint Germain and the Chilas. They are desperate to destroy and assume power before enlightenment appears. Let it be then. Hold your peace and be at peace. For the great divine director has not left exposed the ultimate plan, or the trump card, as you might say. Thus he does not expose it to us or to Chilas. Thus it is not exposed for the fallen ones to counteract prematurely. Let the summer be one of vigilance. Let keepers of the flame not let down their guard or their decree momentum. For there are serious momentums brewing in this nation of dissatisfaction. And during the initiations of the desire body, the unexpected may be anticipated and contained before it erupts. We do not desire to see riot or terror or an overthrow of institutions in the United States. Though there be individuals misusing institutions, though there be corruption in certain of the corporations that determine the destiny of this nation, yet to begin to overthrow, to have a revolution such as that planned by radicals would destroy the opportunity for the healing of America through the light of God and the presence of real sons and daughters moving in and taking position, corporation by corporation, state by state, legislature by legislature. The astounding fact and revelation I would give you to sleep upon this night is that very nearly identical conditions have indeed existed on another planetary body. And Sanat Kumara focuses in upon this for one purpose, so that you may observe this sphere and its varied life waves projected on the screen before you. And you may realize that this intense crisscrossing of light and darkness was overcome by key individuals penetrating, infiltrating, if you will, the darkest centers, assuming positions first of service, then of leadership, and by the inner connection of the soul and the heart in a vast network throughout the planet. 5,000 individuals were able to not only prevent violent revolution and total war, but to seize the power from the seeds of the wicked, to invoke the judgment, to bring enlightenment to the people, to contain the uproar in the midst, and to lead the children of God into a higher understanding. These were 5,000 key individuals who determined and dedicated their lives and went forth following the inner divine plan for the salvation of that planetary body. Now I desire you to know that certain of us who serve from the ascended octaves were among those 5,000, and certain key individuals among you who are yet unascended and fervent in their service were also among those 5,000 who elected to remain and to use their attainment for another round and another opportunity for the rescue mission which we now face on earth. This is why I am absolutely convinced that it can be done. And the Darjeeling Council is convinced. Now it becomes necessary that a body of professional light bearers be prepared to assume those same positions. We are gratified that there are the few and the many in this activity who are prepared. Let us adjust our minds now, Chelas, as you come into our hearts more closely, for the positioning of the timbers, nation by nation. It can be done, and I, for one, say, it shall be done. I am Morya, I will keep in touch.
The harp that once through Tara's halls the soul of music shed, now hangs as mute on Tara's walls, as if that soul were fled. So sleeps the pride of former days, so glory's thrill is o'er, and hearts that once beat high for praise now feel that pulse no more. No more to chiefs and ladies bright the harp of Tara swells, the chord alone that breaks at night its tale of ruin tells. Thus freedom now so seldom wakes the only throb she